Today was an interesting day in the world of news, starting with Trump touting his partnership in a steel deal with Nippon, which is a Japanese company, and they're promising 70,000 domestic jobs and billions of dollars in money. And I believe they said that it's going to be headquartered in Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Also, Boeing is going to be escaping prosecution for their deadly 737 MAX crashes. And also, a record number of Americans have applied for British citizenship. That's a big shocker. Not. Let's see, what else? The State Department says Chevron must leave Venezuela, even after they freed an American citizen there. And the U.S. banana giant Chiquita, they end up firing thousands of people over a strike that was happening in Panama. And finally, an indigenous Amazon tribe is going to be suing the New York Times for defamation. And I remember when talks of this were first making their rounds, it was a couple of months ago or a few months ago. Yeah, the New York Times, they said something about this Amazonian tribe got addicted to porn. I guess they were given smartphones or something like that, or internet access, something like that. And according to the New York Times, apparently they immediately got addicted to internet porn, which is apparently not true at all. So they're going to be suing the New York Times for that. So I'll just go ahead and get straight into it. So the first thing here, Trump touts his partnership in a steel deal with Nippon. And I wanted to make sure that I got the pronunciation correct for Nippon. So let's see if I got this right.
Nippon Steel.
Nippon Steel.
Nippon Steel.
Nippon Steel. Okay, Nippon Steel in Japan. And I think it would be a wise idea if we're going to be doing any kind of deal, especially with steel, with another country. It seems that Japan would probably be the smartest choice to go with. Definitely better than a place like China. I mean, Japan, they always seem like they're like 2, 3, maybe 5 years ahead of us technologically speaking. At least it always seems that way. They always come out with the greatest stuff before we do, it seems like these days. Even in like the past few decades even, it seems like they're always ahead of us with everything. But anyway, if we do a partnership with Japan with regard to steel, I don't see how that's going to be too damaging. It'd be better if we just kept the whole thing internal, at least as a matter of national security, or, with regard to our infrastructure and everything. But anyway, so the agreement promises 70,000 jobs and a $14 billion investment while keeping their headquarters in Pittsburgh, not Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania. So let's see here. President Donald Trump announced Friday that U.S. Steel will remain in America, and it's keeping its headquarters in Pittsburgh through a new partnership with Japan's Nippon Steel. The deal, which the White House described as a major win for U.S. manufacturing, shifts away from a full foreign acquisition and instead brings fresh capital into domestic steel operations. Trump said the agreement would create at least 70,000 jobs and inject $14 billion into the American economy over the next 14 months. So that's a pretty short-term deal. By the way, this is on foxbusiness.com. I forgot to shout them out. So that's where this article is going to be coming from. And the arrangement allows Nippon Steel to invest in U.S. Steel without taking full ownership. The company will retain its American name, U.S. Steel, its headquarters and leadership team, while using the funds to upgrade and expand factories, Politico reported. The partnership focuses on modernizing operations without handing over corporate control. And there's a picture of blast furnaces at U.S. Steel's Granite City Works in Granite City, Illinois. That is an old-looking factory, but I'm sure it works just perfectly fine. Refining steel, manufacturing steel. It sounds like such a badass industry. Very rugged, very rough and tough. Let's see. This new deal replaces Nippon's earlier $14.9 billion bid to acquire U.S. Steel outright. Yeah, I'm really glad that President Trump did not make that happen. I mean, it just sounds enormously stupid for us to get rid of steel manufacturing. I mean, wasn't that what really put us on the map, especially with regard to World War II? I mean, the probably thousands, if not maybe millions of tons of steel that we sent off to the Soviets during World War II helped us secure the win against the axis of evil. That proposed sale first announced in December of 2023, quickly drew heavy opposition from both parties and the United Steelworkers Union, according to Reuters. The Trump administration formally blocked the acquisition in early 2025, citing national security concerns over foreign ownership of critical infrastructure. Instead of abandoning the idea altogether, Trump directed his team to seek a compromise. The president publicly urged Japan to invest, not purchase, a stance he reiterated during a February appearance alongside Japan's prime minister. A new review led by Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, CFIUS, cleared Friday's revised agreement. And this was reposted by Rapid Response 47 over on X, and this comes from Donald J. Trump, his account on either X or Truth Social. I think that's Truth Social, his painted face with the American flag. I think that's over on Truth. Anyway, President Trump says, I am proud to announce that after much consideration and negotiation, U.S. Steel will remain in America and keep its headquarters in the great city of Pittsburgh. For many years, the name United States Steel was synonymous with greatness, and now it will be again. This will be a planned partnership between United States Steel and Nippon Steel, which will create at least 70,000 jobs and add $14 billion to the U.S. economy. The bulk of that investment will occur in the next 14 months. This is the largest investment in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My tariff policies will ensure that steel will once again be forever made in America, from Pennsylvania to Arkansas and from Minnesota to Indiana. American made is ... I don't know why they cut it off like that, but anyway, you can go over to either True Social and read it from the big man himself, or you can jump over to X and check out Rapid Response 47. They'll show the whole thing there. So anyway, Trump's announcement was welcomed Friday by Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who said he had worked closely with Nippon, U.S. Steel, and the White House since the deal was first proposed. Quote, since the day this proposed transaction was announced, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis and I have worked with the leadership of Nippon and U.S. Steel, local labor, and federal, state, and local partners to press for the best deal to keep U.S. Steel headquartered in Pittsburgh, protect union jobs, and secure the future of steelmaking in western Pennsylvania, end quote, Shapiro said in a statement. Quote, throughout the entire process, I've maintained that my priority was to keep and grow jobs here in Pennsylvania and get the largest investment we possibly could for our Commonwealth, as I expressed to President Trump directly when we discussed this transaction in recent days. There's Nippon Steel. I'm assuming their headquarters in Japan. Nippon Steel partnering. Yeah. Now that President Trump, who has sole decision-making authority in the CFIUS process, has expressed his support for the deal, we have the opportunity to deliver historic investments, ensure the future of American steelmaking continues to run through the Mon Valley, while the headquarters of U.S. Steel remains in Pittsburgh, and have our workers right here in Pennsylvania continue leading the world with their skill and innovation. Nippon Steel praised the administration's decision, stating in a statement, quote, Nippon Steel applauds President Trump for his bold action to approve our partnership with U.S. Steel, end quote. We share the Trump administration's commitment to protecting American workers, the American steel industry, and America's national security, the company said, calling the partnership a game changer for U.S. Steel and all of its stakeholders, including the American steel industry and the broader American manufacturing base. U.S. Steel echoed that message Friday, crediting Trump's direct involvement in securing the deal. That's just Trump signing executive orders in general, not any executive order on U.S. Steel or anything like that. President Trump is a bold leader and businessman who knows how to get the best deal for America, American workers, and American manufacturing, the company said in a statement. U.S. Steel will remain American, and we will grow bigger and stronger through a partnership with Nippon Steel that brings massive investment, new technologies, and thousands of jobs over the next 4 years. U.S. Steel greatly appreciates President Trump's leadership and personal attention to the futures of thousands of steelworkers and our iconic company. Nippon Steel has committed to large-scale improvements to plants located in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Minnesota, and Arkansas, Reuters reported. When Nippon Steel made its initial bid for U.S. Steel in late 2023, former President Joe Biden blocked the move. And this is actually, I believe I have over here on the side, if I can freaking find the damn thing. Here we go. I kind of blew it up here just to make it a little bit bigger so I can read through this as well. Let me make this a little bit bigger for y'all. So this is from USS. News release for immediate release. U.S. Steel, statement on President Trump's leadership. From Pittsburgh, on May 23rd of 2025, U.S. Steel Corporation today issued the following statement. President Trump is a bold leader and businessman who knows how to get the best deal for America, American workers, and American manufacturing. U.S. Steel will remain American, and we will grow bigger and stronger through a partnership with Nippon Steel that brings massive investment, new technologies, and thousands of jobs over the next 4 years. U.S. Steel greatly appreciates President Trump's leadership and personal attention to the futures of thousands of steelworkers and our iconic company. Founded in 1901, this is about U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel delivers profitable and sustainable steel solutions. Propelled by its talented employees and an unwavering focus on safety, U.S. Steel serves the automotive, construction, appliance, energy, containers, and packaging industries with high-value added steel products. Steel production begins with our competitively advantaged iron ore production capabilities, which fuel our integrated steelmaking facilities and investments in electric arc furnaces. To help our customers create the best products with fewest emissions, we are committed to reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. U.S. Steel is at the forefront of creating steels that are stronger, lighter, and better for the environment. This includes our proprietary XG3 advanced high-strength steel and Verde X steel produced with 70 to 80% lower CO2 emissions with a recycled content of up to 90% and ultra-thin lightweight index steel for electric vehicles, generators, and transformers. U.S. Steel maintains operations across the United States and in Central Europe and is headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For more information, please visit ussteel.com and follow U.S. Steel on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and X. So that is their statement with regard to this deal that they had made between Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel. Nippon, which already operates smaller ventures in the United States, plans to bring advanced steelmaking technology into U.S. Steel's factories. According to company officials quoted by Reuters, this includes environmentally cleaner methods and high-performance alloys that will make American plants more competitive globally. U.S. Steel's stock surged more than 20% after the president's order for a fresh review, according to Reuters. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce praised the agreement, saying it strengthens domestic production and builds stronger economic ties with a key ally. And it looks like United States Steel Corporation, it is now trading at $52.17. It has increased by 9.27%, I'm assuming over the last 24 hours. Which is a change of $9.27 up, which is a change of 21.61%. Sorry, I read that backwards. Not everyone is convinced, though. The United Steelworkers Union, which has praised Trump for blocking the original acquisition, remains wary of foreign involvement. I mean, I kind of feel that way, too. I don't think any other country should be involved in our steel production. I think that should be exclusively to the U.S. Not that I'm saying the government should be getting involved. I really kind of don't like that idea that the government should be stepping in and brokering deals because President Trump is a businessman, but he is the government right now. So, but anyway, I mean, it's better than it getting sold off because if you left it in the hands of private corporations, it wouldn't have surprised me at all if U.S. Steel was sold off. So, I mean, at least it gets to stay in the U.S. I guess the lesser of two evils. So anyway, in a statement cited by USW.org, USW President David McCall said that while the partnership is better than a buyout, the union still wants stronger guarantees to protect U.S. jobs and production in the long term. Well, I mean, if they're adding 70,000 jobs, I mean, that's a pretty decent guarantee in my opinion. But I get it. I'll believe it when I see it. That's probably what he's thinking. We'll see. He plans to visit U.S. Steel's Pittsburgh headquarters on May 30th for a rally celebrating the agreement. From Pennsylvania to Arkansas and from Minnesota to Indiana, American made is back, Trump wrote on Truth Social. The White House did not immediately respond to Fox Business's request for comment. Not sure why they really need a comment. I mean, there was quite enough said from President Trump already regarding the matter. But anyway, that is the big news story of the day, as far as I could gather. So yeah, U.S. Steel, it's going to stick around. So that's good news. So anyway, with that said, I guess I'll just keep on rolling along. So that was the end of that article. The next one, it's going to come from Blaze Media. The conservative, not the conservative, it's just conservativereview.com. And this is regarding Boeing escaping its prosecution for the plane crashes involving the 737 MAX planes. And this also came out today, May 23rd of 2025. And they reached a deal with the Department of Justice over the fatal failures. Boeing and the Department of Justice reached a deal regarding two 737 MAX crashes that resulted in the deaths of 346 people. I mean, that doesn't sound like they're getting more than a slap on the wrist, in my opinion, but we'll dig into it. Friday court filings reveal that Boeing has agreed to pay or invest over $1.1 billion, which includes a $487.2 million criminal fine, $445 million to the crash victims' families, and another $445 million on compliance, safety, and quality programs. Now, before I go any further, sometimes I like to plug in some math. So let's see what we're talking here. I mean, 346 people, 445 million. So they're going to get like what, 1.1, maybe 1.2 million per crash victim. So it's, let's see here, divided by, what is it, 346 people, 1.28 million. So about $1,286,127, and that's per crash victim. That's how much money that the family of each crash victim is going to be compensated for their death. So I guess according to Boeing and according to the Federal Department of Justice, a human being, an American human being, is worth $1.286 million, supposedly. I mean, I like to think that it's probably more than that. I mean, the average American makes like what, 50,000 a year maybe? I mean, let's see, like if they work over, let's say 50 years, that's $2.5 million. So, I mean, right off the bat, I would just say year for year, I mean, if you're making an average of 50,000 a year for 50 years of your life, which most people I would say probably work about 50 years. You start working when you're about 20, and then you retire around 70, 50 years. So, yeah, I don't think that's a fair deal, if you ask my opinion, but, who am I? Just a nobody, so whatever. So anyway, let's go on and let's see what we got here. Nothing will diminish the victims' losses, but this resolution holds Boeing financially accountable, provides finality and compensation for the families, and makes an impact for the safety of future air travelers. Yeah, they're getting a slap on the wrist, man. This is bullshit. The agreement allows Boeing to avoid prosecution for the deadly 2018 and 2019 plane crashes. No prosecution. That is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The DOJ stated, ultimately, in applying the facts, the law, and department policy, we are confident that this resolution is the most just outcome with practical benefits. Okay. Paul Cassell, an attorney for many of the victims' families, said, although the DOJ proposed a fine and financial restitution to the victims' families, the family that I represent contend that it is more important for Boeing to be held accountable to the flying public. Yes, it is. It's very important. And they're not really getting that held to that much account other than just throwing some money at it. You know what? Let me just pause here for a second. Let me just see if I can find out how much that they're worth. 202. Oh, I thought I'd probably get a better. Hold on. Cap 90, blah, 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 blah. All right, whatever. I'm just curious to see $155.19 billion, huh? Look at that, $155 billion. Boeing's market capitalization, that's what I was trying to get, is reported to be $156 billion. 156 billion. Okay, so going back. So we're going to do, let's see, 156. And what was it? 1.2? Is that what it was? 1.1 billion? Yeah, so we're going to do 1.1 billion. Oh, wait, hold on. I did it wrong. 1.1. Yeah, that's less than 1%. That they have to pay to the victims' families and the fines and whatever it was, like safety building up their safety protocols and all that nonsense. I mean, the amount of money that they have to fork over for this big debacle, claiming the lives of hundreds of people, they're having to pay out less than 1%. Less than 1. 0.7%. Less than a percent of their company's net worth that they're paying out for this. So yeah, I would call this a little bit of a slap on the wrist, a gentle tap, gentle, like, don't do that again, or else we might have to charge you like an extra few $1 million next time. It's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. All right, so where the hell was I? Damn it. Let's see. In July, the company agreed to plead guilty to conspiring to defraud the Federal Aviation Administration after it allegedly deceived the FAA's Aircraft Evaluation Group about an important aircraft part called the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, which is MCAS for short, that impacted the flight control system of the Boeing 737 MAX, according to the DOJ. Cassell previously referred to the DOJ agreement as a sweetheart plea deal for Boeing. Yeah, this is a sweetheart plea deal. I mean, Boeing should be forking over like 10% of their entire company. That's all I'm saying. I mean, look, dude, there's like TWA. With TWA Flight 800, when that crashed, when was that, like 96, 1997, something like that? That bankrupted the company. And same with ValueJet. ValueJet was another one back in like 96, the one that crashed out in the Everglades. Same thing. That bankrupted that company. And Boeing is not even suffering a single percentage of their market capitalization. It's ridiculous. But anyway, that's the article. Boeing did not respond to a request for comment from CNBC. What a crapshoot. Unfair. I mean, what are you going to do? It's a done deal. I mean, not much can be done at this point, but there you have it. There you have it. So I'm going to move on to the next one from the Huffington Post, or HuffPost.com. And this is regarding a record number of Americans having applied for British citizenship. Gee, I wonder why they're doing that. It doesn't have anything to do with remember the 5th of November in 2024, does it? Since President Donald Trump's inauguration, 1,900 U.S. citizens have reportedly sought to become UK citizens, up 12% from the previous quarter. Gee, I wonder what could have possibly given them that idea. A record number of Americans have applied for British citizenship since President Donald Trump's inauguration, the UK government says. More than 1,900 U.S. citizens applied between January and March, according to new data Britain's Home Office released Thursday. Now, how many of these people do you think earn, I don't know, $1 million a year? Or I bet that almost 1,900 out of these 1,900 people are probably worth over $1 million. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I wonder which way they lean politically. The number represents the largest increase since the office began keeping such records in 2004 and a 12% increase from the previous quarter. More than 6,600 Americans have applied for British citizenship in the past full year, the Home Office reported. Honestly, in my opinion, that sounds kind of like a low number to me. I guess for full-on British citizenship, okay, maybe, yeah, whatever. But it sounds like a low number to me. I figure more people would be moving back, between countries. I mean, it makes me wonder how many British citizens try to apply for American citizenship. I'm sure it's a lot higher than the other way around, but, immigration lawyer, I'm not even going to begin to try to pronounce that. Mahunthan, I think I got that right. Immigration lawyer Mahunthan, Paramesvaran. Anyway, Mahunthan told the New York Times that the increase is due in part to Trump's reelection. Yeah, you think? Whatever gave you that idea? There's definitely been an uptick in inquiries from U.S. nationals, he told the New York Times. People who were already here may have been thinking, I want the option of dual citizenship in the event that I don't want to go back to the U.S. Americans' applications for British citizenship previously surged in 2020 during Trump's first term amid his disastrous response. Okay, good job, Huffington Post. What a great job. His disastrous response. Such as what? Closing the borders down, trying to get the vaccines rolled out, which he ended up rolling out before the end of the year that COVID dropped, thanks to China. I mean, I don't think that a vaccine... No, I've got my own opinions about the vaccine. I don't even have the vaccine, so that should tell you enough. But despite all of that, while he was president, he managed to get the vaccine into the public's hands, more or less, by the end of 2020. I mean, never in the history of science have we ever been able to roll out a vaccine in the exact same year. Well, technically, COVID happened in 2019. That's why they call it COVID-19. But it only took about 12, maybe 13 months from the time that it broke out, by the time that China dropped it on the world, to the time that a vaccine was getting rolled out. But yeah, Trump was so disastrous, though, with regard to it. Anyway, just months into his second term, Trump has started a trade war with the rest of the world, gutted vital federal agencies like what, USAID? Oh my God, they're so vital. They're so vital, spreading around all that financial propaganda, those billions of dollars. Poor CNN, poor MSNBC, poor Huffington Post. How much money was Huffington Post getting from USAID? I would love to know the answer to that. Of course, we're not going to know the answer to that because, in the interim, sometime between when Doge went in there and, between the announcement of them getting shut down and Doge going into there, I'm sure that there was probably some files getting destroyed here and there. It would not surprise me, but that's just my own opinion. I'm not saying that as a statement of fact. Don't burn me at the stake. I'm just voicing an opinion. Anyway, just months, let's see here, allowed security breaches by his White House staff to go unpunished, blah, blah, blah. Has flown immigrants to prison. Yeah, with no immigrants, illegal immigrants, by the way. They're not American citizens. They're not Americans. They're illegal immigrants. This is all partisan bullshit by the Huffington Post. They're just, it's just funny. I figured I would read this because I thought that was hilarious. That, like Americans, they've got their Trump derangement syndrome going on. They think that America is just going to implode under the weight of overwhelming fascism. Yeah, but okay. Anyway, so yeah, that was on the Huffington Post. So there you have it. Americans moving over to Great Britain. I don't think they're going to be missed all that much. I mean, call me crazy, but they may not be. Or maybe they just might come back, which they probably will. So this is also a pretty funny article that I don't know if I would really necessarily call it funny. I just thought it was just kind of interesting, in my opinion. Not the fact that thousands were fired. I mean, that's not funny at all. What I found funny about this is that that the United States owns Chiquita. I honestly didn't know that. I thought it was like Central America, Costa Rica. I thought it was like some country down there, like that's where Chiquita came from. I didn't know that it was an American-based company, but maybe it's not. I didn't read the whole thing all the way through, so, maybe I will get surprised as far as that goes. But anyway, so President Jose Raul Molino, whose changes to Social Security laws prompted the protest in the first place, he called the strike illegal, and he said the company has just cause for the layoffs. And anyway, this is on Al Jazeera. So thousands of people got laid off. So it makes me wonder if the cost of bananas are about to go up. It sounds kind of common sense, but I guess if you're obsessed with bananas, or if you incorporate bananas into your daily diet, you might want to take that into consideration, that bananas might start going up in cost because of this, because now there's a whole lot of people that are not working for Chiquita Banana. And I can't think of any other banana company out there. Every time I see bananas in the grocery store, it's always got those blue stickers all over them. But you could always shop at Aldi. They're cheap at Aldi. They're really cheap at Aldi. I mean, don't quote me whether if they're Chiquita or not. I don't know if they're Chiquita brand, but as far as I'm concerned, a banana is a banana. So anyway, how do I get rid of that? There we go. Banana producer Chiquita has announced mass layoffs in Panama. There it is, Panama. I knew it was down there somewhere. Costa Rica, Panama, close enough. Amid an ongoing strike, the United States-owned banana giant said on Friday it was letting all daily laborers go for the unjustified abandonment of work at our plantations. Workers have been on strike for more than a month already, as part of a nationwide industrial action protesting new Social Security laws lowering pensions. The government has branded the strikes illegal and said the sackings are the result of workers' intransience. I have never seen that word before. Intransience? Intransience? I don't think I've ever seen that word before. All right. Chiquita said in a statement that the strike had caused irreversible damage and at least $75 million in losses. adding that those affected by the layoffs are required to collect severance payments. The company did not elaborate on the number of people affected by the decision. However, the Reuters news agency reported that about 5,000 workers out of the 6,500 have lost their jobs, referring to an unnamed source. Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino defended Chiquita's actions at a news conference on Thursday. The company will have to act accordingly, dismissing those necessary to save its operations in Bocas, a Caribbean province in Panama. Believe me, it hurts me. But this intransigence is not good. Why can't I say that word? Intransigence. I think I'm saying it right. Intransigence. That's really going to bother me. I'm gonna have to define this because maybe somebody else besides me has not heard of that word either. Intransigence. Unwillingness to change one's views or to agree. Okay, why don't you just say that? Just say, like, don't want to agree. Defiant. Why can't you just say defiance? That's a way easier word to say than intransigence. Just say defiance. The strike is illegal, Molino added. The next step, according to the labor code, is dismissal with just cause because this is a de facto strike, not a legitimate strike. However, Francisco Smith, Secretary General of the Banana Industry Workers Union, he told the Panamanian, I'm skipping over that, by the way, told the Panamanian television channel Telemetro on Thursday that the strike was legal because the deputies who approved Bill 462 harmed the banana sector. And that's President Jose Raul Molino, by the way, who said the strike was illegal. Let's see. Bill 462 was passed in March, and it introduced changes to the Social Security fund that could lead to a possible reduction in pensions. Okay, well, I can see why they're pissed off then, because they've been paying into it forever. And I mean, didn't that just happen to the U.S. Social Security system? Didn't they just recently announce that in a short period of time, like in 3 to 5 years, that the starting amount that you're going to get for Social Security, like if you take it earliest, you're not going to be getting like whatever it was, like $750. Now it's only going to be like $710 or something like that. I think I did read somewhere recently that they were pretty certain that they're going to put through some measure that's going to lower the amount of money that we're getting in Social Security, which is pretty ironic because not only have we been paying into it for years and years, at least many of us have, but inflation continues to go up and up and up. So our Social Security is going down, 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 while inflation is going up, up, up. Not sure why we're not protesting in the masses over that, but whatever, I'll digress. The government, where was I? The introduction of the law led to significant anger, with unions, including banana workers, joining a national strike on April the 23rd. The government in Citribana held a preliminary meeting on Thursday to discuss amendments to the bill, which would include protections for banana farmers. Still, Smith said, the strike continues. We continue fighting in the streets. The strike is indefinite. Panama's banana industry is a significant part of the country's economy. I am sure it is. According to the, and I'm not being sarcastic, according to the Observatory of Economic Complexity, in 2023, Panama exported $273 million worth of bananas, making it the 13th largest exporter in the world. I am surprised it is only the 13th largest exporter. Sorry, I freaking dropped my headphones earlier. That was that crash you heard. Wheeling my chair around, got caught up in my wheel. So, so that's that. $273 million. That's a lot of bananas. With it being the 13th largest exporter in the world, maybe it's not going to take that big of a hit with regard to the cost of bananas in the grocery. Not sure. So anyway, that is from, again, Al Jazeera, Chiquita banana. Thousands fired, up to 7, right? 6,500 to 7,000 workers. No, 5,000 to 6,500 have lost their jobs. They're not going to lose their jobs. They have lost their jobs. They've been fired due to that strike that's been going on since, I believe they said March, or at least that bill was passed in March. So we're going to move on to the next article here, coming from the State Department. This is out of MontanaRightNow.com, a local website. This was updated 7 hours ago. By the way, I'm not in Montana. This is just an article from Montana. So anyway, the State Department says that Chevron must leave Venezuela, even after an American was freed from Venezuela. Damn, it's only 62 degrees there. Today's high where I'm at in St. Petersburg in Florida, it was like 88, 89 degrees. Humidity is like 70%. Welcome to the end of May. The U.S. State Department said Thursday that Chevron must wrap up operations in Venezuela next week as scheduled, contradicting an envoy who told a podcast differently after Caracas freed an American. President Donald Trump's administration has canceled an exemption and sanctions on Venezuela run by leftist Nicolas Maduro that had been granted by former President Joe Biden under a previous deal. Yeah, I'm sure, because Joe Biden was depleting our national oil reserves to an insane degree, so I'm sure he probably was trying to strike deals with Venezuela. In fact, I think that was actually directly related to that whole situation because Biden was trying to artificially lower the cost of gas to make the administration look good, and by doing so, they were depleting our strategic oil reserves that Trump is vowed to replenish, which I think was part of the reason why he was in Saudi Arabia. What was that, this week or last week? He gave a big speech in Saudi Arabia. It was one of the best speeches I think Trump's ever given. That's definitely worth covering. I might actually do that this weekend, even though that speech is like a week old. It's definitely worth checking out. It was an awesome speech. So anyway, Rick Grenell, a Trump loyalist who holds a broad role of special presidential envoy for special missions, on Tuesday flew back to the United States with a freed U.S. military veteran, Joe St. Clair, who had been detained in Venezuela since November. Yeah, dude, don't go to Venezuela. Just don't go there right now. It would be a pretty bad thing to do. It's pretty sad what's really happened in Venezuela over the last like 15, 20 years. I mean, some people may not believe it, but at the turn of the 21st century, Venezuela was the richest country in all of South America. Now it's the poorest, thanks to socialism, in part. Hey, but at least gasoline's free if you can find it anywhere. If there's any gas station that you can find that has gas, gas is free for the citizens of Venezuela. So I guess that's a good thing. But yeah, even though if you do go to Venezuela, and I'm talking numbers that are like at least 7 years old, but at least 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm sure the number's much higher now. If you went to Venezuela and you wanted to buy a hot dog from a hot dog vendor in the street, it cost about $25,000 Venezuelan dollars. And a hamburger was like 30 or 35,000. And the average Venezuelan at the time was earning about 40,000 a month. That was like average full-time salary or monthly salary or whatever. So, yeah, pretty damn dire. Pretty crazy what's going on there, man. Absolutely crazy. So anyway, Grenell, who secured St. Clair's release in talks in Antigua, said after his return to Washington that Trump believed in engagement. Asked in an interview with pro-Trump media personality Steve Bannon about Chevron, Grenell said President Trump authorized that extension if we were able to get some progress, if we were able to build some confidence. We were able to do that today, so that extension will be granted, Grenell told Bannon's War Room podcast. We want to put America first and do what's best for America. That means making sure that the Chinese do not take the Venezuelan oil. Yeah, see, that's the real conundrum that we find ourselves in, because if I'm not mistaken, Venezuela has the largest natural oil reserves on the planet, even more than Saudi Arabia, even more than Alaska, whatever region on earth that's got oceans of oil beneath their feet. Pretty sure Venezuela's got the largest. Even though their oil is, I don't know if dirty is the right word, but it requires a lot more refining to clean up the petroleum that they pump out of the ground in Venezuela. Apparently it needs a more rigorous refining process to be able to get it refined down to gasoline and other petroleum products like plastics and all the other stuff that we use. I can't remember what kind of clothing is that. It's oh shit, I can't remember what kind of fabric that is. There's a real popular type of fabric. It's not spandex, it's something else. I don't know, man. I'm drawing a blank, but there's a really popular clothing fabric that people wear, like with like workout shirts and the shirts that they retain or they dry, like extra fast drying fabric. Well, anyway, that's made from oil. basically. So anyway, but U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was also Trump's national security advisor, promptly wrote on X late Wednesday, quote, the pro-Maduro Biden oil license in Venezuela will expire as scheduled next Tuesday, May the 27th. Asked about the contradicting messages, State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce said Rubio was making it clear that the license is going to expire. Quote, there's no confusion. I think many people on every issue can have a lot of opinions, but I think clearly who we look to are the people who have the power to have the impact and who makes the decision, end quote, Bruce said. Rubio, a Cuban American and former senator from Florida, is a what the hell is up with these words, man? Vociferous opponent of Latin American leftists, including in Venezuela and Cuba. I know I'm not saying that word right. Vociferous, right? Vociferous. He's a vociferous opponent of Latin American leftists, including in Venezuela and Cuba. Hey, man, come on. It's after midnight. Give me a little slack here. Maduro is angling to sweep power in parliamentary and regional elections on Sunday, 10 months after his disputed re-election. Only a handful of countries, including longtime allies Russia and Cuba, have recognized the 62-year-old's presidency. Grenell, early in Trump's term, traveled to Venezuela, which agreed to send planes to bring back undocumented migrants, a key Trump priority. Don't you mean illegal aliens? The deal drew outrage from Florida Republicans in the narrowly divided House of Representatives, who instead want more robust support for Venezuela's Democratic opposition. No, dude. Nope, Venezuela's got to get to the way they were like 20 years ago. I mean, Venezuela has turned into an absolute political hellhole, like a literal hellhole, pretty much on every level. And they what? They want to dump more money into that government's lap? Are you fucking kidding? So anyway, that's it. That's the latest with regard to Venezuela, the massive amount of oil that they continue to have that they're not really able to do anything with. So I guess it's just going to have to sit there for now. I guess unless somehow, China's allowed to make a deal with them and that moves forward. But we'll move on to the next thing. Indigenous Amazon tribe they plan to sue, or they are going to sue the New York Times for defamation. And this is from channelnewsasia.com, or CNA for short. I believe this actually, this came out, it came out at 4:21 a.m., May 24th, their time in Asia. It's not quite 4:21 a.m. here yet. It's just now the 24th of May. So obviously this is local time. So this article has been out for a number of hours at this point. So this is, despite the article having that date and time, apparently it was published out of Los Angeles. Anyway, an indigenous tribe from the Brazilian Amazon has sued the New York Times, saying the newspaper's reporting on the tribe's first exposure to the internet led to its members being widely portrayed as technology-addled and addicted to pornography. The Marubo tribe of the Javari Valley, a sovereign community of about 2,000 people in the rainforest, filed the defamation lawsuit seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in damages this week in a court in Los Angeles. Now, I don't know. No, it just kind of sounds ironic to me that, look, they just discovered the internet and now they're in, U.S., United States federal courts suing for hundreds of millions of dollars to mainstream American news publications. That's one hell of a leap, man. Going from discovering the internet to like 1 year later, 2 years later, they're already up in the freaking halls of justice suing the New York Times for hundreds of millions of dollars. That's just, yeah. Talk about a rocketing trajectory into the first world. So anyway, it also names TMZ, that's hilarious, and Yahoo as defendants, alleging that their stories amplified and sensationalized the Times reporting and smeared the tribe in the process. Yeah, I don't know if that's really going to work for them. I guess they could try, but unless TMZ really just added fuel to the fire, But TMZ is probably just going to say they were just reporting on what they heard from the New York Times. I mean, like a middleman, so to speak. But maybe they will. Maybe they'll settle. I mean, a lot of companies, they'll settle just to keep the news quiet. Anyway, the suit says the Times' June 2024 story by reporter Jack Nickus on how the group was handling the introduction of satellite service through Elon Musk's Starlink. So that's what it was, not smartphones. It was Starlink. Quote, portrayed the Marubo people as a community unable to handle basic exposure to the internet, highlighting allegations that their youth had become consumed by pornography. These statements, hold on. Hey, give me some water. These statements, or quote, these statements were not only inflammatory, but conveyed to the average reader that the Marubo people had descended into a moral and social decline as a direct result of internet access, end quote. An amended version of the lawsuit filed Thursday says, quote, such portrayals go far beyond cultural commentary. They directly attack the character, morality, and social standing of an entire people, suggesting they lack the discipline or values to function in the modern world, end quote. In a statement to the AP, a Times spokesperson said, quote, any fair reading of this piece shows a sensitive and nuanced exploration of the benefits and complications of new technology in a remote indigenous village with a proud history and preserved culture. We intend to vigorously defend against the lawsuit, end quote. The theme of Nickus' story was that after less than a year of service, the community was now facing the same kinds of struggles with the pervasive efforts of the internet, or with the pervasive effects of the internet and the proliferation of smartphones that much of the world has dealt with for years. Nickus listed a broad range of those challenges. Quote, teenagers glued to phones, group chats full of gossip, addictive social networks, online strangers, violent video games, and scams, misinformation, and minors watching pornography. He later wrote that a tribal leader, quote, is most unsettled by the pornography. He said young men were sharing explicit videos in group chats, a stunning development for a culture that frowns on kissing in public, end quote. The piece makes no other mention of porn, but that aspect of the story was amplified and aggregated by other outlets, including TMZ, which ran a story and accompanying a video headlined, quote, Elon Musk's Starlink hookup leaves a remote tribe addicted to porn, end quote. The suit says the video segment, quote, falsely framed the Marubo tribe as having descended into moral collapse, end quote. Messages seeking comment from TMZ and Yahoo were not immediately answered, and they probably won't be. The misperceptions brought on by the aggregation and repackaging of the story led to the Times to publish a follow-up. Ooh, the Marubo people are not addicted to pornography, Nickus wrote in the second story. Oh, actually, they're not addicted to it. My bad. Quote, there was no hint of this in the forest, and there was no suggestion of it in the New York Times article, end quote. If you say so, okay. I mean, if that were true, I don't think they'd be suing you. That did not satisfy the tribe, which says in the lawsuit that it failed to acknowledge the role of the NYT itself played in fueling the defamatory narrative. Rather than issuing a retraction or apology, the follow-up downplayed the original article's emphasis on pornography by shifting blame to third-party aggregators. Nickus wrote that he spent a week with the Marubo tribe. The lawsuit says that while he was invited for a week, he spent less than 48 hours in the village. Quote, barely enough time to observe, understand, or respectfully engage with the community, end quote. Well, then perhaps you shouldn't have been writing so willy-nilly as to what you were writing, dude. Maybe you should have spent a little more time with them before you started to, start defaming the tribe, according to them. So anyway, the lawsuit was first reported by Courthouse News. The plaintiffs also include community leader Inoke Marubo and Brazilian journalist and sociologist Flora Dutra, both of whom appeared in the story. Both were instrumental in bringing the tribe the internet connection, which they said has had many positive effects, including facilitating emergency medicine and the education of children. Well, it depends on what kind of education that you're showing them. I mean, the internet's kind of a tricky kind of place, especially when it comes to kids. Anyway, they cited the TMZ video, which shows them setting up antennas for the connection, as creating the unmistakable impression that the two had introduced harmful, sexually explicit material into the community and facilitated the alleged moral and social decay. The lawsuit seeks at least $180 million, including both general and punitive damages from each of the defendants. Quote, the fallout from the publication was not limited to public perception, end quote, the lawsuit says. Quote, it destroyed lives, institutions, and culturally significant projects, end quote. So that's interesting. We'll just have to see where that goes. Are they going to settle? Probably not, but, well, maybe they will. Maybe they will. But they're sure as hell not going to settle for 9 figures. That's for damn sure. So there you have it for that one. And that pretty much brings me to the end. That's all I've got for y'all. And I guess I could just close it out with just one last thing here. I actually did check this out. This is actually, it didn't really blow my mind. It wasn't too surprising, but this is a list of the top companies and their current, where is it at? Where they're ranked in terms of value. This is on companiesmarketcap.com. These are the largest companies by market cap. The total market cap of the top 10,477 companies is standing at 116 trillion with a T. Microsoft is number one. Microsoft is the highest valued company on earth right now with $3.345 trillion. And its stock price right now is $450. And obviously the country is the USA. But check this out. All of the top 5 companies, and this is global, this is worldwide, the top 5 companies around the world in terms of valuation, all based in the U.S. country, USA, USA, USA. See, I thought NVIDIA, wasn't NVIDIA, I thought they had like close ties with Taiwan or something, or it was a Taiwanese company. Obviously I'm mistaken because it's got the American flag next to it. But yeah, anyway, the top 5, USA, Microsoft number 1, NVIDIA number 2 with $3.2 trillion. That company exploded like nobody's business. Man, I wish I had some stock of theirs like 10 years ago. Apple, $2.9 trillion. Amazon is at $2.1 trillion. Alphabet, Google is at $2 trillion. And the first company not based in America is Saudi Aramco. And they currently have $1.6 trillion. They're dropping a bit in their stock price, 3.6% over the last 24 hours, but I'm sure it'll probably bounce back. Meta Platforms is at number 7 with $1.5 trillion. That would be Facebook. And Tesla is sitting at number 8 with $1.09 trillion. Number 9 is Berkshire Hathaway. That's Warren Buffett's company with $1 trillion, 1.08 to be exact. And number 10 is Broadcom with $1.075 trillion. Every single one of these companies, except for Saudi Aramco, is a USA company. Isn't it great to be an American? God bless America. And actually, Taiwan is the second country outside of the U.S. on this list at number 11, TSMC, with $995 billion. And then it just goes on from there. Like Walmart's at number 12, obviously USA. And then JP Morgan Chase, and then Visa, of course. And then Eli Lilly, which I think is headquartered in Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken. They're number 15. And then there's China. They're finally on the list with number 16, Tencent, with a $600 billion valuation. And then there's MasterCard at number 17. Then the next 3, Netflix, Costco, and ExxonMobil. They're at, obviously, USA, all 3. Oracle USA, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Home Depot. That's number 24, USA, 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 USA. God bless America. We are by far the richest country on the planet. Did you know that 30% of all money that is spent worldwide comes from an American wallet? A third of all money that's spent globally comes right out of an American wallet. That is how freaking crazy rich we are. Despite the inflation, the hard times that we find ourselves in, a lot of it is just over consumerism. I mean, most people, if they quit buying so much shit that they don't need, they actually wouldn't be doing all that bad. Now, I understand, like with the rent is legitimately insane. Car payments, legitimately insane, but you shouldn't be buying a brand new car right now, because if you're paying $1,000 a month for a car, I'm sorry, you're brain dead. You're absolutely insane. Car insurance is crazy. Homeowners insurance is crazy. I know that groceries have doubled. essentially. I get it. I get it. Things are going way up. I mean, on the other side of the coin, though, a lot of people they're taking ridiculous vacations. They're racking up stuff on credit cards because they just want now. They want this now. They want that yesterday. They want this yesterday. I don't care how much DoorDash is. I'm hungry. And I don't care how much the TV might cost. I just want it. It's just, yeah, it's just spending way too much money. People just have to learn how to budget better and just quit the buy now, pay later crap. With Klarna and Afterpay and all that crap. I mean, that it's gotten so bad that even DoorDash is accepting shit like Afterpay and Klarna. Like you can put your freaking Taco Bell on a 4-time payment plan. It is absolutely insane. But anyway, that's all I got for everyone. So thank you very much for following along today's news articles, and I'll see you next time. See you later.